So in all of Latin America here, we're dealing with countries, especially we're going to look at Mexico and we're going to look at Argentina and a couple in Central America that are dealing with the legacies of Spanish and Portuguese conservatism. That those wealthy elites had a lot of the money, and then when you add in the U.S., it's not very good as well. So the economics are really going to start to change. Lázaro Cardinal is going to start land reforms in 1917, and what he applies land reforms that have been laid out in 1917, and this is going to start to an economic miracle. The state is going to start to redistribute land for compensation, so people are going to get paid, but they're going to give it to the peasants. 45 million acres are going to return to the peasants. They are also going to nationalize the oil industry, and this nationalizing the oil industry is also going to lead to one-party rule in China. That the RPI party, the revolutionary, sorry, the there we go. The Institutional Revolutionary Party is going to have control over Mexico well into the 90s, when they are going to slowly start to be protested against, and eventually they will lose power. But they were pretty harsh on their citizens, but decreased their foreign dependency with that economic miracle. Basically, you're looking at land redistributed to the peasants; they were paid, and the oil industry is nationalized. Got a second one. Second one is Argentina. In Argentina, they had primarily had their economy based on cattle and agriculture with this booming urban life, and it's an industrial base. And the politics were mainly led by Juan Perón, who was part military. He's elected president. He's backed by the military. He's supported by the working class, and he is protection from foreign control. And he's calling for more industrialization. His wife is actually more popular than he is, and she becomes somewhat international, Evita. They live in this big pink house. She becomes a political leader, becomes a classic fashion designer, and really, on all scales of the socioeconomic spectrum, people love her. Her husband is not as well loved, but she really helps keep the country together because she reaches out. She does a lot of charity work, and when she dies at 33, she becomes the patron saint of the country. Now, Argentina does have a little bit of a problem because one of the things, yes, she reached out to everyone and not some of the Nazis who had escaped basically trial in Europe, had escaped Argentina. So she's seen as this person who would sympathize with them, but she didn't care. She didn't care mainly because she reached out to everyone and believed in the charity for everyone. Now, after Patron is out there in 55, it becomes much more military rule. They're actually going to rule with death squads for a long period of time, and they're going to lose between 6 and 23,000 people are going to disappear between 1967 and 1983. It was a dirty, dirty war that was not good really for anybody, but Argentina will stay a military power well into the 80s. Now we've got two countries left here. Let's go to Central America. In Central America, we are going to start with Guatemala. In Guatemala and in Latin America as a whole, the U.S. had been working there. In Guatemala, that was mainly the United Fruit Company, which is owned by U.S. investors, and it dominated the bananas, which were the major export of the country. So when Guzman says he's going to nationalize bananas in 53, I want the land for peasants, the government did offer to pay for the land, but it's rejected because the U.S. government thinks it's just going to nationalize communism if you nationalize the industry. So the U.S. is going to work to overthrow Guzman in 54, and the country is going to fall into basically civil war. So basically, the U.S. overthrew the dictator, but completely sends the economy and politicalness of Guatemala into a tailspin after they do so. The other place to talk about here is Nicaragua. The U.S. had supported the dictator in Nicaragua for 40 plus years. Why? He's anti-communist, and he will let us basically do what we want. It's a staging place for the pigs. Note, we supported dictatorship. The Sandinistas had launched guerrilla operations against them, and they're fighting to overthrow the leaders in the late 70s. Carter recognizes This recognizes that when the Sandinistas take over the communist government, but Reagan changes all that. No more money. He thinks that we're supporting communists in the region, so he is going to support this Contra group. The Contra group is a bunch of CIA-trained counter-revolutionaries dedicated to overthrowing the Sandinistas. It's not going to work. The Contra War, Costa Rica is going to negotiate the peace. U.S. peacekeepers have to go in to maintain the peace. And the U.S. was not really liked for a long period of time. One thing to note here, the U.S. is basically backing dictatorship because they support our economics, and we didn't, and they were against the Soviet Union influence. What do you see here moving forward, coming out of for the politics and economics of Latin America? First of all, land distribution is still an issue. Okay. Second, how much foreign influence you see? I mean, the U.S. had been there the whole time. Are you going to be dependent on these foreign economies? What about industrial development? Are you still? Because there's a theory out there called the core periphery model. And the core periphery model is this, that, for instance, the U.S. would be in the core, and there will always be countries in the periphery that will always be unequal because, well, if there's a core, you're going to need to have somebody that's making things for the core. So you can think about that if you want, and think about how that plays into this, because we talked about export-based economies, which Mexico definitely was for a period of time, but then they become less foreign dependent also over time. And so you're all your countries in Latin America, you're going to see more and more exports. You're going to see more diversification, and that's really going to help with the industrial developments of the time period. I mean, Jamaica is awesome with bauxite, for instance. You're going to see oil out of Venezuela that will help them for a period of time, although as of 2018, they're very much struggling economically. But, I mean, how in Latin America, where you have some incredibly rich parts, like in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, you'll have incredibly rich neighborhoods, but just down the road, you'll have slums. How to deal with that inequality is a huge part of some of the problems for both political and economic leaders in Latin America.